Is there learning continuity during COVID-19 pandemic? It is now obvious that COVID-19 is changing the lifestyle of human beings around the world. This outbreak is going to affect our future. The challenge we are facing is trying to understand how this will happen and get prepared for these changes. Continuity of learning is a continuation of education in the event of a prolonged school closure or student absence. COVID-19 kills and frightens people all across the country. Lack of precautionary measures are being implemented to protect people from the disease. It is a critical component of school emergency management as it promotes the continuation of teaching and learning despite circumstances that interrupt normal school attendance for one or more students. The DepEd strongly suggests continuing learning process through online. Some argue that continuity of learning was clearly understood. For example, online learning. This method of online learning might be the best choice of every student for our university programs. In forced situation, this type of teaching has more advantages than disadvantages. It is especially allow us to study anywhere and anytime. In fact, students can connect to online lectures following their schedules and learning at their own pace. Where surveys have been undertaken in low and middle-income countries, they appear to indicate that few children have access to learning continuity. A phone surveys in Senegal found that less than 11% of children have used radio, television, and online courses to study since school closed. A survey in Kenya suggested that only 22% of children have access to learning. Prior to building a bespoke online learning platforms, policymakers should consider whether the learners can access it and if so, whether utilizing existing platforms may be more effective than establishing a new national online learning platform. In Kenya, 42% of children who have access to learning continuity have watched educational television classes. Meanwhile, only 19% of Kenyan students have listened to radio lessons. This difference is notable as 62% of Kenyan households own a radio, while 45% of Kenyan households own a television set. In other words, device ownership does not correlate with device usage or continuity of learning. Policymakers must not just consider what affordance there, but must also consider what platforms are most likely to be used. Otherwise, continuity of learning is a continuation of education in the event of a prolonged school closure or student absence. It is a critical component of school emergency management as it promotes the continuation of teaching and learning despite circumstances that interrupt normal school attendance for one or more students. However, many considerations play a role in a development distance learning program, such as accessibility, type and quality of materials, and the length of time that this type of learning must be maintained. There are also a variety of potentially viable distance learning methods. The following consideration, information, and resources can support school and districts as they make plans for continuity of learning in the event of a school closure or student absence. State policy on online learning. Many states have established policies regarding online learning. As schools and districts develop continuity of learning and education plan, they should be sure to consult their respective state policy to ensure their plans are aligned. Moreover, the students or learners have nothing to learn. After school closed in March, one reflection of how students or learners learn and develop. I am due to write my exam next week, but my learning this year has been greatly disrupted by the coronavirus pandemic. It has been difficult for me to study by myself at home for the last 6 months as schools have been closed, says Abu as he shows of the latest chapter he has been reading through in the last week. In this scene, the pandemic is also a call to renew the commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals, ensuring that all young people have the opportunity to succeed at school and develop the knowledge, skills, and attitudes and values that will allow them to contribute to society is at the heart of the global agenda and education's promise to our future society. Don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Let your learning lead to action.